Joining me to discuss U.S. immigration policies is David Leopold. He's a partner and chair of Ulmer and Byrne Immigration Law Practice. He's also the former president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. He joins us from Cleveland, Ohio. David, President Trump has certainly made a lot of controversial comments about immigration recently, but perhaps the most controversial would be his comments to take away the right of citizenship of children born to non-citizens here in the United States, right, which is guaranteed under the 14th Amendment. He has vowed to end it one way or another. He calls it a crazy, lunatic policy. Can he, in fact, through executive order, make changes?
Well, before we get to the substance of the question, which is a very good one, let's understand what's going on here. You know, he wants us to talk about this on television and through the networks here because he wants to rile up his base. This is not a serious policy proposal. The president is a cynical man who is lying. He's lying to the American public. This is nothing new. He senses trouble in the midterms. So what he's doing is he's throwing what we call red meat to his base. Now, to answer your question, look, he calls it a crazy lunatic law. What he's referring to is the Constitution. And I think that tells you something right there. This is a president who disdains freedom. He disdains due process. He rails against the free press. And of course he's going to make these claims because he's trying to appeal to his base without any facts whatsoever. And no, he cannot change the law. He cannot change the Constitution, which provides for constitutional citizenship for people born on the soil of the United States. No, he cannot change it with the stroke of a pen, and he knows that. This is all about the election.
Well, let me ask you about something else he had to say and really delve into whether this is factually correct or not. He said, we're the only country in the world where a person comes in, has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States. That, from my research, is not factually accurate.
No, it's not accurate. And are we surprised? I mean, the Washington Post and the New York Times both have lead articles today talking about how many lies this individual, the president, a term I use loosely, by the way, at this point, lies. This is what he's based on. So no, of course not. And there are many countries in the world where, you know, if you're born in the country, you are granted citizenship. And let's remember one thing here. The citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment, which guarantees citizenship to people born on our soil, was done to protect African Americans who were subject to slavery, who were treated like pieces of property to be bought, to be sold, to be abused. And that's the constitutional citizenship clause. So when he talks about taking that away, he's talking about taking the United States back to the awful days of Dred Scott. The famous decision.
Well, David, is this going to help him or hurt him at the polls next week?
Look, I think it's going to hurt him. I think it's a miscalculation. I think the American people are better than that. The American people are smarter than that. You know, he ought to be talking about the real emergencies in this country. We've got gun violence. We've got health care issues. We've got all kinds of problems in this country that need to be addressed. And his rhetoric, his hateful rhetoric, has caused an atmosphere in this country where we saw last week, for example, the worst attack on Jews in the history of the country, that horrible attack that occurred in a Pittsburgh synagogue on Shabbat. Unbelievable.
We'll have to leave it there. David Leopold joining us from Ohio. Thank you so much.